Back in 2001, I used to teach children how to play musical instruments for a living. At that point in time, it had been 5 years since I had been working for a music center. I worked really hard, spent very little money, and that saved just enough to open a music center of my own. I rented a space in an old and not so well looked after building. I settled for that because the rent was low for the amount of space that it offered. The first thing I did was to brighten the place up. The space had a large but opaque window. It didn't let in enough light, and when you add the poorly placed light fixtures, it needed a lot of work to make it presentable to the parents of potential students. Anyway, I spent a significant sum for the time to change the opaque windows to the clear ones, and also to install new light fixtures in proper places. My music center was finally ready to receive students. The interior was designed in a way that would have a series of small rooms, and each of them received acoustic treatment. That way, each kid could have their own little bubble where they could play their choice of instruments without bothering anyone or being bothered by anyone else. Also, each room had a large, from top to bottom, all clear triple pane windows installed on them. It was done as so to prevent the students from feeling claustrophobic in such small space. Getting the permit for the construction and then receiving the inspection was a nightmare, but it all worked out in the end. The previous tenant, by the way, she had used the space as a photo studio. She came by the building on the second day that I rented the place, and I remember her asking if I could accompany her to the space so she could pick up some stuff that she left there. I thought she was just being polite at the time, but there was more to it than that. Anyhow, business was better than expected. I took in 5 students on the first month, and what's more, they were all good kids. The only downside was the upstairs tenant. That space, I don't really know what the place was used for, but I do know that the renter was always dressed up in a Buddhist monk-like outfit. He would chant something creepy whenever he was up there. Now, thankfully, you couldn't hear him in the music rooms, but it was definitely audible in the reception area. It was a bit awkward when the timing of his chanting coincided with the parents coming to pick up their kids. A couple of months passed and I had more students by then. All the students seemed to be satisfied with the learning environment, but from time to time, some of them did complain that they heard some weird noises. Also, most of these complaints came from the nighttime students. I would normally tell them that it's likely due to the subway line that ran underneath us. I told them that it's likely the vibration being felt and heard whenever the trains pass by. To be honest, I was just making things up for the sake of putting their minds at ease. Just like that, months went by until one day, something more than just random noises began affecting the students. It was in the evening and I was in the reception area going through some bills. That's when I heard a girl scream and I immediately ran towards the sound of the scream, of course. I thought at first that a cockroach might have been seen, but the young girl told me that she actually saw a person. She told me that she was playing the violin when she could see someone else other than her in the reflection of the window. She first thought that she was just seeing things, but the stranger in the reflection became clearer and clearer with each second. My student described the person in the reflection as a young girl around the age of 7 or 8. She had long hair all the way down to her waist, and she also smiled when my student had made eye contact for a brief moment. It creeped me out to no end, but I was the teacher and the owner of the business. It was my job to take care of the students. I went to the music room with my student and we both stood at about the spot where she was playing the instrument. Fortunately, the girl in the reflection didn't return, but I did ask my student if this was the first time she had seen something like that. She told me that it wasn't the first time, but when I asked the other students, they all said they hadn't seen a thing. Thus, fortunately, we concluded that it was likely nothing. I hired a full-time teacher after that, so the kids would feel more secured with at least one adult always being available and near them. One day, I was in the city to purchase a new musical instrument when I received a call from the new teacher, Saito-san. She told me that one of the students had freaked out after entering a music room. The boy had seen a young girl sitting on a chair and smiling at him. He thought that she might be in the wrong room at first, but something at the back of his mind kept telling him that she wasn't human. I spoke to the kid when I returned to the music center. The boy gave me the same description of the young girl my other student had provided. What's more, another kid came out screaming from his room during this conversation, and he had described seeing the same girl as well. I was under incredible stress at the time. The business was going well, most of my students were really great kids, and I really thought I had finally made it. Selfishly, I worried more about my own future than the children's well-being. I really thought that it was the end of the road for me. The business was practically done for. In a totally unexpected twist, however, the children continued to come. They told me they liked learning from me, and they pleaded with me to keep the lights on for them. I never knew that children could be as thoughtful and caring. I needed to return the kindness with a solution. What I did was to hire a part-time worker whose sole job was to walk around the music rooms during business hours. When he would take rests, it was either me or the other teacher who went around checking in on the kids at all times. Months had passed without an incident, and both the kids and I stopped thinking about the girl in the reflection. I rented the space for 3 years in total, and the only other times that the girl was seen was when I was alone in the music center. Both times happened at night after I closed the business for the day. One time, I saw the young girl walking in the hallway where the music rooms are. She disappeared when she walked through the wall at the end of the hallway. The second time, I didn't see the girl, but I heard her. She whispered, "Teacher," several times before I got up and walked around to search for the girl. I don't have much knowledge when it comes to spirits or ghosts, but based on what my students and I had experienced there, I don't think the ghost in our building was malevolent. In any event, I moved my business to a newer and better building after 3 years. I haven't moved since then and have been teaching in the same spot ever since. I'm happy to report that the new building is ghost-free. It's been smooth sailing for a long while now. With that in mind, I think it's safe to assume that it was the building that was haunted and not me. Frankly, the girl in the reflection wasn't all that bad. For all you know, the poor thing's destined to be stuck in that building for an eternity. I actually feel bad for her. Nevertheless, I'm just glad my life has been ghost-free after the move.